Hey, welcome to this edition of Echo Conversations. We're pretty excited. Today, I'm joined with Daniel Hall, and Daniel is on the team with us. And so we figured it'd be smart for us to kick off a set of conversations where we really talk about customer service. Now, we're talking to you. If you're watching this video, you're probably watching it because you're doing online evangelism. But Daniel and I started talking, and we realized, you know what? I think there's a lot of principles just in the general sphere of customer service that maybe aren't followed when it comes to online evangelism, or certainly could be improved upon. So, hey, welcome to the show.
Thanks. Yeah. Yeah. And, I think some of this comes from I spent years before working with Echo in retail and customer service behind a counter most of the time. And as we were building on Echo and talking about how volunteers should relate to seekers, there seemed to be a lot of these correlations, and we started putting together that, like, actually, it doesn't feel too different. We have to be careful, and we'll talk about that some more. But that didn't actually feel too different. These online evangelism and actually this kind of idea of customer service in the retail environment.
Yeah, and so I think probably this video as this kind of foundational first one, we really need to unpack what it is we're setting up as kind of a foundation so that as we do these other videos, we can always kind of refer back to this one. So
yeah, and first of all, like, to acknowledge that this isn't always the most comfortable conversation. A lot of Christians, I think, are wary for good reason to treat people with like a monetary value, or to even use certain words. A lot of these words carry over, and we'll use them interchangeably in business. But yeah, just to first of all say, like, we understand that this could be uncomfortable.
Right.
If this is someone's first step into this conversation of calling a seeker, as we say in Echo, as like calling them a customer, like, whoa,
right,
like, heads up,
right.
Like we're all Christians. This is a Christian conversation.
Yeah.
We have the best end in mind for the people. We have the best intentions, but that it's okay, and we can create an environment where it's safe. Everybody's safe here. We're on the same page. So that being said, being able to move forward in that, because don't want to leave that on the table. Like, we're all on the same page. So
right.
Anyway.
Yeah, because I think there's a tendency when we hear the word customer, it's like, whoa, we're not selling, we're not doing these things. We're telling people about Jesus, but why are we interested in kind of creating this connection between an online evangelism and customer service? Why are you trying to connect those two concepts together?
Because I think oftentimes the Christian world tries to reinvent the wheel on, well, everything.
Yeah.
We're always trying to add what I've heard called Christianese to things. Like, we have all these different words. For instance, seeker, the word seeker, we had to come up with a word for what someone coming into Echo looking for answers, what that was, what we're going to call that person. Well, in the idea of not trying to reinvent the wheel, business practices, so many books and lectures and experts and data have been built around customer service and what we call the journey, the customer's journey. So why not look to those things that we can Google? This modern tool that gives us all the answers, and all the data. We can Google, like, simple customer service and look at what the big players are doing. The Starbucks, those who are known for customer service. McDonald's has this classic all the way back to, I've been looking at some early 1900s, some of these guys that came up with these business ideas and theory. Why not look to them to be able to apply some of the best practices to what we're doing?
I think we pride ourselves on not making up vocabulary if there's already a word or phrase that somebody can.
Why would we do that? Like, it's just like, that's a good question. Why did we do that?
Right. Yeah.
Anyway.
So we've got seeker, and seeker, what we're saying is someone who's seeking to know more about Christ. So we're calling them a seeker, and that would be the customer. So the seeker would be the customer. So that is a different word. We don't use the word customer.
Right.
We do use the word seeker. But outside of that, let's kind of start looking into this. So actually, I should say, before we go into that, we should say, if you don't get anything else out of of the video. If you haven't been thinking like, I should Google and look at like customer service concepts as it relates to helping my volunteer team or my internal staff team or whoever it is that's interacting with these seekers, these customers, then that's, if you don't get anything else from this video, that's a win just to kind of start doing that.
Like, hopefully this is just breaking that wide open.
Right.
It's a catalyst to then jump into, what if we looked at the customer service best practices?
Right.
What if we were able to lay that as a template over our ministry?
Sure, totally.
It could change everything.
Yes. So, okay, so let's kind of get into this a little bit, then.
Yeah. So I think the place to start would be that customer's journey. You'll hear, a lot of different phrases around that, but typically this idea of a journey that businesses want to, with marketing, reach out to a potential customer and take them on a path that results in the business getting their business, the company getting their business.
Yeah. Getting a sale.
Getting a sale, that's right. And like, once you want to talk about terms where a seeker is a customer, it's actually kind of awesome that conversion is a word that's used in both camps, which I think actually is maybe where some of where we started talking about this may have started there when we talk about this idea of a conversion and how it's kind of funny that both camps, both the Christian camp ministry and business world, use this word conversion, which are slightly different, but also similar, right? So to get to the conversion, we want to sell something. And again, very careful not to be, we don't want to fall in the camp of Christians that are selling Jesus. Like, that's typically a no-no in our world of Christianity. But we are selling an idea, I think. And, there's some of this up for debate. This is a conversation. So please, let's push back. This is all theory.
Yeah.
But I think this idea that we're selling is this idea that, Jesus says in John 14:6 that I am the way, the truth, and the life. And that may be a new idea for a seeker, someone seeking truth. Well, there he says, I am the truth. Like, let's introduce this idea. Let's sell. We are saying this softly. This idea of selling an idea of truth, selling the idea that Christianity is this faith that could lead to this abundant life that it promises. So we are selling something. We're not asking for money in that selling kind of way. But so I think there's a cool correlation there that we're not selling Jesus, but we're selling this idea of this faith, this abundant life, this truth that is Jesus.
Sure. And I think part of the scariness of hearing the word selling is, first of all, we've all seen maybe an online evangelist do something that's like, oh, that doesn't feel great in some way, or a television evangelist that's like clearly just selling physically things that people pay money for in some way. Or we think, I think sometimes we think of like in the United States, we have this idea of like the used car salesman who's somebody who's like not honest, and they're trying to push something on you that's not as, they're passing it off as something better than what it really is. So it comes across as like, ooh, I don't want to be a liar, but that's not what we mean when we're saying selling. We're just saying that we're exposing people that are currently not Christians to an idea of Christianity, and they've got to cross over to that concept. And so they are interacting with us with maybe a skeptical mind, or I'm not sure if this will work for me, or they'll have objections and things like that. So the more we can kind of understand those principles of selling, it's not that we're trying to be dishonest in any way. What we have is truth. So we're going to be very honest and very clear and very open with it. But I think it's a chance for people to really come with a different mindset, and our understanding that their mindset is not here. That's why they're coming maybe to this ministry to talk to them. Well,
and you just said something, and I know you and I have so many of these conversations all the time and could get really in the nitty gritty of all these terms, but you just said objections. And we often talk about how sales or really marketing, they go hand in hand a lot, is overcoming objections. And again, these seekers are coming to Echo with lists, often well-prepared lists, and not all the time, but often well-prepared lists of objections. And so that selling is really overcoming the objections. In such a similar, it's such a parallel when you think of it like that.
Yeah, totally.
So I think that naturally leads into the conversion. And so, and this, you have to be kind of careful because it's not exactly the same. But in business, the idea of a conversion is someone who goes from a lead, a potential customer, and there's a couple different. You could say to a purchasing customer, like someone actually exchanges money,
right.
Or even the conversion from a lead to a, I guess a hotter lead, or like there's
right,
kind
sure,
of a couple.
sure.
I tend to like to think that that's when they become a paying customer.
Right.
That's the real win in business, is that conversion to from a potential customer to a customer.
Right.
And because that one also to me is the more clear parallel to what we're talking about in evangelism. Is where a skeptic or a seeker of any kind gives their life to Christ.
Sure.
They've now exchanged. I've heard you talk about this, and I don't want to steal your because you do a great job of talking about this. But the cost
right.
of following Jesus. Why don't you talk about that for a second?
Well, okay,
because you do a
Daniel.
great job with that. I think it's great.
I sure will. Well, yeah. I mean, I think the thing is, we so often talk about, well, it's the free gift of salvation.
Right. Very popular phrase from evangelists.
Yeah.
Free gift.
And so, we're like hitting all these things in this first video.
Yeah.
It's all so delicate. It's
Yeah.
just hear our hearts that we understand how delicate this is as we're going across this. It is totally free. It is a
right.
free gift from God for sure. However, there is a cost to following Christ,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so we want to distinguish that of like, you have to die to yourself to go to Christ. So even though, yes, it is a free gift, it means that I have to give up everything, right? I have to give up my free will to become a slave to Christ.
Mm-hmm.
And so in that way, it's actually the most expensive thing, because it's the one eternal thing that we own is our soul. And so we get to make these decisions of how we want to spend
Yeah.
that. Do we want to, just make it all about me, or do we want to give up and say, God, it's all about you? And in the process of doing that, the reason that comes up so often is so many ministries treat it like it's free. And it is free, but it costs everything. And so if something's free that costs everything, it's not cheap.
That's the key.
Yeah, it's not cheap.
Yeah.
And so we see a lot of ministries spend a lot of time doing something that makes it feel cheap, or like, well, sure, I'll just go ahead and get it since it's free. Mm-hmm. and so that's kind of the distinguishing characteristic, is that it actually costs you everything in the process of being a completely free gift.
Yeah, it's such a weird, navigating the terms. Mm-hmm. Free, yes. Mm-hmm. Not cheap, costly.
It is very costly.
Grace.
Yeah. So because of that, when we think about how we're going to interact with somebody, yes, you have to realize, like, you're asking them to give up everything of themselves to die to that, to go to Christ. So it is it's not something that typically happens just 2 words, a quick exchange back and forth, and then, oh, I'm in, let's do this, right?
Yeah.
It's sometimes a long journey. That customer journey may be a long journey. It may not be. And so I mean, sometimes we watch these customer service representatives, if you will, try to go for the close right away, right?
That's a business term. You may want to define that a little bit.
Yeah, the close. Well, it's getting the sale. It's getting them to commit to the final end. And so sometimes we'll watch people come in and say, I'm struggling with something, and then they'll go straight for the close of like, hey, you should accept Jesus.
Right.
And they're like, whoa, I'm not even sure who Jesus is.
Hey, total stranger.
Right.
Yeah,
right. Let's back up. I was wanting to tell you that I feel sad.
Yeah.
Let's start there and let's work our way to that destination. Mm-hmm. Let's not avoid it, but let's not get there prematurely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Gosh. Yeah, it's like there's a stewardship, like in stewarding a person's time that has come to you and stewarding their story. Gosh, we can talk about that all day. But I think let's go ahead and move into our third. There'll be many videos after
Sure.
this where we can talk about that stuff. Or just getting started. But and finally, after they've converted, both in business or in faith, right? Either one, pick your path. Then there's this idea of customer retention. So the business side, you wanna make sure that you're keeping your customer. So Starbucks wants you to come to Starbucks every time you want coffee, not Dunkin' Donuts or I don't know. I'm trying to think clothing brand like who's still left. Sears is gone. I don't know. Kohl's. I don't know. Like Kohl's wants you to come to Kohl's to get your next shirt. They don't want you to go to Walmart. You know, that idea of customer retention. How can we keep the customer coming to us? So this is one that honestly I'm still working through exactly, but I don't want to miss talking about this because I think that there's a parallel. And again, I'm glad we're having a discussion about this. I think there's a parallel about kind of after a person in their faith, we're on the faith side, after the person converts, the conversion process, there's kind of this idea of like, now let's make them a disciple. I think it's maybe naive to say that a person's a disciple immediately. I think they're a new Christian, a new creature, right? But discipling, I've heard it called discipleship, disciple making. It seems that there's kind of a process. You get with a mentor or a discipler and work through this. Discipleship training growing up at church was like insinuating that there's a training process. I think there's something there, and I'm not going to claim that I've got this all figured out exactly, but I think that there's something here about the business side of customer retention. Maybe it's a process of, we talk about when we're consulting and going through with this with ministries, this idea of upsells, like taking someone, even though they've already are willing to purchase, they've already converted, taking them through a deeper, maybe that's it. Maybe it's that we're inviting people from an initial conversion into a deeper relationship, to use that example. So a deeper relationship with a brand in the business side. Man, if you like our coffee, you'd love our croissant. That would pair well with your coffee. And if you like that, we're selling this coffee by the pound. You can take it home with you. So I don't know, maybe there's something there in the discipling process of a new believer that I think is worth spending some time talking about.
And a lot of ministries are using the word follow-up now as kind of a word for, hey, we're going to continue to stay in contact with this person. And certain modalities of communication work better for that. So like if somebody comes and does an online chat, we really don't have a way to proactively reach back out to them, right? But if somebody texts us or calls us or emails us or Facebook messengers us, then we can turn around and send a message back to them, right? It's bi-directional in our ability to each of us have the ability to reach out to the other. So I think there is something about when we start talking about metrics and measuring, we get very excited about, oh, I can measure this, and this is the number, and okay, let's watch that number grow. And a key number that everyone, of course, will love is professions of faith or whatever term you'll put around that as a ministry. And then the danger there is that feels like the home run. That feels like the end. And really, if you think about it, that's a key moment. There's no question that's a critical moment. But that is a moment in a very long journey. And if you were to plot that out, that dot is very close to the very beginning. That's right. There's a lot to do. They're just getting started. And so I think a lot of ministries are struggling with how do you scale that and work through that. So in other videos, we'll kind of talk some more about that for sure. But I think there is a long journey of that customer that goes far beyond just that initial transaction, that initial change of opinion. It may be 12 changes of opinion before they're ready to say, you know what, I'm ready to accept Christ. But even still, no matter how many it is, that's still really a milestone, but then a long journey in front of that. For sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, we've looked at these kind of 3 steps that the business world kind of sees as this customer, then making a conversion, and then customer retention and we joked earlier kind of discussing some of this, like through the lifetime of the customer. That's a very common phrase that they use in business. A lifetime of a customer. That way you know how much value one single customer brings to your company.
Yeah.
But we were joking that like the lifetime of the customer, in this case, the lifetime of the seeker, is forever. Right. And if we really believe what we believe, then it's eternity.
Right.
So it's actually beyond the lifetime of the customer.
Right.
It's it's this guarantee that's forever, eternal guarantee. Not many businesses, by the way, will offer you an eternal guarantee. But yeah, so it's actually, I think it's a kind of a really beautiful analogy, and one that is worth wrestling with. But again, not trying to reinvent the wheel with these phrases and these different as this journey of a customer, of a seeker. It's really helpful. I think it's changed how we talk about business as a business, and how I've watched it change how ministries view their ministry as we've talked to ministries about this.
Yes.
It just changes. It's like turning it upside down in the best way. And like these light bulbs go off when considering these things.
Sure, totally.
These simple and time-tested ways of approaching the customer.
Let's not reinvent the wheel. If somebody's already figured out some things, let's push into that. So thanks everyone for joining this one today. Wow, that was a lot of disclaimers in this one, but it's because our heart is very sensitive and we understand the concept of how tricky it is to talk about things like sales and customers. But we're trying to do that to free you from just this small microcosm little world of people talking about Christian evangelism and move that into a bigger sphere of like, what are best practices when it comes to customer service, when it comes to customer relationship, and things like the lifetime value of the customer. And so hopefully this has been good for you. And as we continue to unpack these, we're going to use some of these terms without as many disclaimers, probably refer back to this video. So congratulations, you've watched the foundational video on this, and stay tuned for others. Thanks for watching. Make sure and like and subscribe to our channel. Click that bell so that you'll be notified every time we have a new video coming out. And I wanted to make you aware that we have some incredibly awesome resources totally free for you, whether you are or are not an Echo customer. Just go to echoglobal.org/resources and you can look at all of them totally free. echoglobal.org/resources. Like seriously, like now is a great time to go. echoglobal.org/resources.